Right guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And stage 4 of the CDL kicks off just tomorrow on the Thursday. Some crazy matchups that of course are coming up this week. But today I wanted to hone in on the Seattle Surge. Some interesting things that Octane said on his stream not too long ago when the whole question marks about whether Doug was coming into the team were being raised. The fact that Octane didn't really build this team, it doesn't really have too much say in well, I guess the success of this team throughout the season. People have certainly disputed that claim. We're going to dive into that today. And where of course could Octane end up next season. Intrigued to take your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, this then the schedule for this week. So on the Thursday, we'll talk about this of course in more detail tomorrow, but of course some key matches ending the week with OpTic versus FaZe. That's going to be a good one. But Surge play one game this week up against this new Los Angeles Thieves squad with TJ now back in the team. I guess it's kind of the old Los Angeles Thieves squad in a sense. They're going to be playing up against Surge. Only one match for them this week. Of course, not the easiest group for Surge. They play Paris, of course, later on, but also they play, well, up against the FaZe guys, the OpTic guys, and the Minnesota Rokkr. Far from the easiest pool at the present time. But of course, they did make a roster change. We talked about this could take this team to some degree a step in the right direction. I think certainly it's maybe more of an upgrade than Paris Legion have had on the other side. We're bringing Zaptius into the team. I think the Classic was pretty good stage 1, stage 2, all things considered. I think maybe he can help facilitate Prestinni to become a more monster slayer than he was for a part in stage 2 as well. So honestly, all things considered, Seattle still can be a scary force. The problem is really for this squad is that they need to be a lot better than just a contender for top 8. They need to be contending for top 6, top 4, because you need to put up a lot of points right now if you're Seattle to actually get back to the point where you can compete for the World Championship and actually qualify in that sense. Because of course these are the standings at the present time. It's not looking pretty. FaZe are here at 340 points. There was an interesting call from Doug Lee the other day saying that you might need like 200 odd in that ballpark to actually qualify for the World Championship. So of course I'm looking at Seattle down here at 50. It's not going to be easy. You're going to need a lot of points. There's already a 70-point gap between the Mutineers and the Seattle Surge, so you need to be like way better than Mutineers in theory to actually bring your way up the pecking order right here. Doesn't seem very likely to me for the Seattle Surge, which certainly raises some questions about what their roster looks like next season. The last couple of years they've tried in effect similar kind of things, right, where you've seen, okay, last year they go down this route of having kind of veteran players, but they didn't really mesh particularly well together, didn't have the slaying power that they needed. Karma then retires, Enable then retires. Like that kind of just shows that what of a shambles that team was last time around. It seemed like to me when they formed this team at the start of the season, they were going down a similar route, where it felt like to me they were just going to end up paying Loony into retirement. That may indeed end up what's happening right here. And then their star player in Octane, who's been around their squad for a couple of years. I can't imagine he particularly wants to be here going into next season as well, and they may just decide to completely blow away the roster. Now at the end of the day, if I let's say Octane does want to go elsewhere, we'll talk about where potentially his destination could be in just a couple of seconds here. If there's someone I want to build around, I think building around Gunless could be great. A lot of people have been saying that Gunless actually has improved a lot in terms of his personality and actually not being so abrasive on a team that he has certainly been in the past, and actually can be a great teammate right now, and clearly a great communicator as well, as we see every time we go into a listening with Seattle Surge, and on his day can be a phenomenal takeover game player as well. So I think there's a lot of great things about Gunless right now, and honestly this team still does have the ability to mix it up and win series against some of the best teams on occasion, but no, I just don't think they can do that consistently enough to actually get to the point where they can qualify for the World Championship. Now of course Octane isn't happy with how this run has gone. As you can see right here at the COD Champs 2019, he was 9-2 in series counts, since then 9-29, and this is actually on the 8th of May. Since then I'm pretty sure they've lost another couple of series as well. So I think Seattle Surge right now since their inception are something like 9-31 or something like that. They didn't even win a series unfortunately for them throughout the entirety of stage 3. Maybe they'll get one done this time around. They've got a chance against the Paris Legion I suppose, and the rest of the teams are certainly beatable on, well, certain day. There's always a probability that Seattle do actually win a series, which it'd be nice to see him at least get to 10 wins to get over this kind of hump that we have seen here so far. But of course Octane's not happy with how this team performance is going, and he was talking on stream the other day. Unfortunately when I went to find the clip it was deleted, so maybe I'm not sure whether he deleted it or wasn't too happy with how he phrased what he said or whatever, but he kind of follows up on Reddit that we will look at right here. There was some discussion on whether he actually built this team, and he kind of said in the clip that he wasn't really responsible for building this team, and like it was kind of put together, and there were some issues that were going on that kind of caused that. And as well as Lucas Brad says right here at the end of the clip, he says, I'm happy with my team, but obviously they do suck at the present time. So this is what Octane says in reply. I like my team, we're just not that good up to this point, like I said after the clip. I knew that my options during the offseason weren't going to be extensive, so I went after Pierce, that being Gunless because he's gross, Danny, that being Loony, also came because I knew we needed someone to facilitate the team, and Preston, that being Prestinni, was at the end after a bunch of FaZe occurred. There was some seriously messed up stuff that happened over the course of figuring out the team, which is what I'm referring to in the clear above. So saying, okay, look, I didn't, I kind of, well, I mean, he basically did say that he didn't really build the team, but as he's saying here, like, he effectively did build the team because he went after Gunless, went after, you know, Loony to facilitate the squad, and then Prestinni came in at the end as well. But he's saying that there were things outside his control which caused that not to necessarily be the case. But the guys on the flank certainly have some things to say about what Octane's had to say on the matter, and the fact that, look, at the end of the day, he probably did have some significant say on how this team was being built, and, well, therefore, I suppose, some responsibility in the results that they have had.
Because it sounds like the players in the team are making some terrible decisions on who they wanted to pick up initially, and screwed themselves over with how much everybody got paid.
And that's
so
the
that's
thing.
Definitely not on him.
That's what I wanted to ask you, Ben, and this is how I'll end the stream, right? Who's made, in the beginning of these years with Seattle, who's made the decision to build a team? Where is it coming from? Because,
to be fair,
because Sam was on stream saying he didn't really have much of a say in his team. Was he not?
I don't know.
That is utter.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that out of him. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
So listen.
I agree.
The only mistake
I
think
read that
you can
somewhere.
fault to Seattle is they didn't have a good bench player.
Listen, Asim is in the chat, and I know that this wasn't the only team that turned Asim down to a bunch of dumb people in the league, but Asim said that he asked Seattle to pick him up as a sub, and they didn't want to do it. I agree with you. They just didn't have depth on the team. And to Sam's point, like, I don't know if I necessarily believe, understanding kind of how things work behind the scenes, that, you know, he said that he didn't build that current team this year or at this point this year.
So, of course, one of the key questions to me is what exactly happens next season for Samuel Octane LaRue? Because, well, right now, if you're looking at a team like Los Angeles Thieves, that I'm sure has got to be Octane's target for next time round. Of course, good friends with Octane and good friends with Kenny. Both individuals that are still over on that team right now, as at least in Octane, well, Enable as the content curator, and Kenny is still the star player of that lineup. Now, look, if you're Los Angeles Thieves, who knows how the rest of the season goes? As I talked about earlier today, I think there's a possibility that Huke kind of stays on the bench for the rest of the season, but then they don't really sell him anywhere because they're just going to lose a hell of a lot of money. So what they might decide to do instead is just say, okay, at the start of next season, we bring in Huke initially and we build the team around him from scratch, and then, okay, well, not necessarily from scratch, of course we keep Kenny, and then we figure out exactly what we do around him. We try and make a team around Huke work for next season, so we actually make the most of the expense that we have taken, and we can actually leverage this incredible talent which is sitting on our bench, that maybe they don't feel like they can have the time quite to turn around with him in the team for this season. Maybe that's a consideration that they are making. So if you aren't doing that, maybe you think about bringing Octane back onto this team. I'm pretty sure that's what Octane, well, I imagine that's what Octane would like to be sitting in the situation of. We saw obviously a discussion here between Enable and Octane a little bit ago right now. And we also get this from the end of April when, as Octane says to Kenny, might have to fix that, getting back on the same team once again. So, like, if I'm Octane, I'm not, I'm pretty sure he's been wearing some 100 Thieves hoodies and stuff in his videos. I know he does that type of stuff anyway, but, like, if I'm Octane, I'm not happy with the Seattle situation. I want to go somewhere else, and Thieves clearly is ideally the perfect target. And it really was an interesting question to me, because I thought coming into this season that, okay, like, Octane would probably want to go back to Thieves if he could, but probably not going to happen because, okay, they've got Slasher over there, right? That was my initial thought process, pretty much everyone's initial thought process coming into this season, that in 4 versus 4, it worked in 5v5, of course, Slasher and Octane on 100 Thieves back in Black Ops 4, but in 4v4, you're not really going to have both of those two players on the team working at the same time. With Slasher now on the bench, and pretty much unknown where he goes from here, then, well, Octane could be in a perfect position to swoop in as their kind of main assault rifle, with Kenny then taking a more aggressive role. Now, at the same time, Drazah has been great for this team, I think, and has been a real great asset for them. At the same time, like a player like Octane, it's tough to pass him up, to be honest. He's obviously been very talented for his entire career, and he still puts up decent performances, at least in terms of slaying, but I think his stock is kind of suffering, right? You've got to have a look at these last couple of seasons and say, well, if I'm a top tier team, team. If I'm looking at the results that Octane has had on Seattle, hasn't been pretty by any means. Does that harm Octane's stock to some degree? I mean, his stock clearly right now isn't where it was at the end of Black Ops 4, you know, the World Championship, for example, when of course he goes on to Seattle, and I'm sure gets paid a pretty penny for doing so. But I think Octane's stock is still in a nice position where he can find himself onto another top tier team, at least for another season, at the very least, before questions start to be raised, as they are about other players in the league. This is a very competitive league at the present time. But speaking of teams that are doing incredibly well, here are Lion Man's cars for Atlanta FaZe. This is, well, pretty spectacular stuff. As you can see, aBeZy gets a 98. These ratings are done, effectively, like, Lion Man doesn't just make the ratings up. He puts all the numbers into basically a calculator type of thing, and it gives him what the rating should be. So it's KD, but it's also all these other factors like kills per 10 minutes and engagement, and I don't really know if bomb plants factors into it and stuff like this, and also the ratings get boosted if the team does particularly well. So Arcitys, despite being, I think, what a lot of people would say was the best performer on their team, actually only gets an 86, but I think this also compares it to like other players in the role. So as an SMG player like aBeZy, putting up these numbers is pretty unprecedented. That's why he gets so high. But still, I mean, yeah, FaZe looking at dominant, and well, who knows how they will do going, of course, into this stage. They will be playing Seattle. Not exactly sure what week they play Seattle in, but I mean, look, Arcitys, if he's clutching clutches like this, 4-1 versus 1 to the Major, 2-1 versus 2, all of these against the best teams in the game. That is, well, a pretty scary thing for the opposition to deal with, certainly. This I thought was interesting as well from Doug Leave, an interesting stat on Cellium, who has the strongest correlation between his plus-minus and the rest of the team. If he goes negative, Atlanta has only won 6 out of 18 respawns. That is a crazy stat, but he's gone positive in 55 out of 73 games this year, which is pretty crazy to see. So I guess shutdown Cellium is what Clayster is saying. He's, well, noting this one for when maybe they'll match up again at the stage 4 Major in a LAN environment. That'll be very exciting to see. The final thing I wanted to say before we finish off the video, this from Kevy Skills, thought it was an interesting question with regard to who should make the Call of Duty Hall of Fame for the greatest players of all time. I think that that Scump and Nature, if you're going to do a Hall of Fame, Scump and Nature have to be in there for the impact that they have had in the scene. I think that I think you probably have to chuck Clayster in there, like, been around for an absolute so many years at this point, won multiple world championships. I think Clay's got to be in there. I suppose you got to put Crim in there as well, right on the same logic. He's been around for a number of different years, won more championships than anyone else. I think the 5th spot, if you've got to have a 5th spot, is somewhat tough to say, because you want to put Karma in there, right, as a 3-time LAN world champion. Certainly, you know, you could argue Formal should be in there. I think you could definitely argue JCap should be in there as well. Was the best player back in Black Ops 1, 2010, been around all this time, and is now, of course, a coach on one of the strongest, at least the biggest organizations in the game, Los Angeles Thieves. We'll have to see how they fare. So I think you can do the top 5 in a number of different ways, but Scump and Nature at the very least if you were going to build some sort of Mount Rushmore. But intriguing your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm that you enjoy this content, and other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always, take care, and I will see you next time.